This is In Demand Uncut with Jim Gellertley at the cutting edge of new music.
I've come to the Big Smoke. I'm at the Ministry of Sound in London. My first ever visit to the legendary club, which conveniently has its own radio station. Tonight, we're going to get a live performance from Hadouken. James joins me right now. How are you?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
My first visit to the Ministry of Sound.
I know, it's pretty swish, isn't it?
As a band, because you're now signed to Ministry of Sound Records, I wouldn't associate Hadouken with Ministry of Sound. How did this all happen?
Well, basically, I think the general gist is you'd probably have to ask them, but I think they've been trying to sign artists and sort of grow as a label because they've had a lot of success. And I think one of their first artists was Example, and everyone knows him now, he's like world famous. And they've signed Wretch 32, DJ Fresh, Yasmin, so they're kind of signing artists and growing as a label, and I think we're kind of part of that really. So we're kind of one of the first bands they signed, and like historically that label for me is like, it's, you know, obviously, you know, I used to buy all the compilations. I found my homework diary in my parents' loft like a couple of years back, and it had all like Ministry of Sound logos all over it where I'd been drawing myself. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's wicked to be part of that history really. Does
this mean you get to pull for the back catalogue and get the compilations that you don't have?
Apparently so, but I haven't been able to do that yet. But I have seen a hard drive where they've got all the MP3s and WAVs of all the old tunes, so I'm definitely going to bring down a hard drive and see what I can steal from that, definitely.
Well, talking about the technology and that side of things, I always think of Hadouken as quite a progressive band, because I remember, when was it, like 2007 or something? You released an album or a mixtape or an EP on a USB. Yeah. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, we were looking for gimmicks, but yeah, we didn't want to like put out like the album yet, and we didn't want to do a CD, and it was kind of all the MP3, you know, like there was sort of iTunes was starting to come in and stuff like that. So we just wanted to do something a little bit different, and the USBs, and like someone's like, you can do that, you know. It's like, yeah, why not? Let's do it, and we could put some content on there and like put some like JPEGs and stuff like that, and like it just seemed cool to do, so we did it at the time. But I think really at the end of the day, it was the music on there that would have stood the test of time, and there's a lot of fans that still like that. I personally don't like the music on that, but a lot of fans do, so hopefully it's the test of time.
Are you a vinyl junkie? Because there's a lot of people who still regard vinyl as the A-list for
format,
music.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through DATs and mini discs and reel-to-reel tapes in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I do actually. I've got a whole load of vinyl, kind of sort of Ministry of Sound, sort of house and garage from back in the day. But I've also been buying a lot of sort of rock albums. And when we went to LA, there's a record store called Amoeba Records, which is like this huge warehouse, just like it's like a treasure trove of amazing like bands and vinyl and stuff. And I spent a couple of like £100 on vinyl out there, and when I put it into my suitcase, it made it like weigh about 8 times as much, so it wasn't so good. But yeah, I've got stuff like sort of Nirvana and Pink Floyd and all these sort of, Beatles records actually. Yeah, I do really like vinyl, but to be honest, I'm a bit of a skeptic when people say, oh, it sounds better, because I think that there's the analogue warmth and fuzzle and crackle that does make things sound nice, but if you took a really, really high quality digital recording of that warmth, I don't think people could tell them difference if you gave them a blind test. So, but they can have that, you know, if it makes people into music, that's fine.
What stage is the new album at? I would imagine it's recorded. Was it recorded before you signed the dotted line with Ministry, or did Ministry have input?
Well, we kind of started making a few demos and stuff, and then when they came on board, it kind of did change things, because they bring, you know, a bit of money in the game, and mainly it's about contacts. You know, like the people we're working with at Ministry just seem to know every dance producer there is, and they hooked us up with all sorts of people, and they were really keen for us to get out there and just experiment and try loads of things with loads of different producers and different genres and stuff. And I think that's really helped us creatively. Actually, they've pushed us, and yeah, in a way that I've never been pushed before by a label, so it's been really positive.
Well, the first track that came out was Parasite, which was available as download. We're going to hear that right now. Tell me a bit about this track.
Parasite, basically it's produced by Lodestar, and they're like sort of on Ram Records, which is one of the biggest drum and bass labels. We were being big fans of them for a long time, and they're kind of killing it in that scene at the moment. And I went down to their studio in Bristol for a weekend, and we came out with this track. It was actually one of the first ones from the record.
That's Parasite from Hadouken on In Demand Uncut. I'm Jim Gellertley at the cutting edge of new music for a Sunday night with James Smith from Hadouken. You've done the major label thing. are now sort of back on an independent, albeit one of the biggest dance brands in the world. Is there any difference?
I think, yeah, it is, but I think it always comes down, it doesn't come down to a label or a history, it comes down to the people we're working with, and at the moment Ministry are getting things right. I mean, when we signed, that month, they'd had like 4 out of 5 of the #1s, and like people like DJ Fresh, an example, I don't think they can put a foot wrong at the moment, and they're actually really inspiring acts, and hopefully we can follow suit with them, really. But like, yeah, it is about who you work with and the people, and luckily they've got the right people here, and hopefully we'll, you know, that'll prove in the music something, you know, that we can push forward, really.
Because one of the issues bands often have with signing major label deals is the turnaround of staff. You know, a particular A&R man takes them under their wing, they move on, and suddenly the label's not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, what were your experiences doing all that?
Yeah, we major labels. Yeah, like I said, it's just down to the people, and we put our first record out. I think the main problem with us, I think, as a start when we started as a band, was the fact that we got signed within about 6 months of being formed. No band really knows who they want to be after 6 months, and I think a lot of bands, especially back in the day, you'd be grafting for 4 or 5 years and touring and working out who you are and getting better at writing songs as well. And then you get signed, and you get to the point where you are going to be really tight, and you're going to kind of know who you want to be. We had to work that out whilst releasing on a major label, which was Atlantic. Was the first label we signed to, and then we did the second one with sort of like a half deal with EMI. So like, it was difficult to kind of work out who you want to be at the start, and we had to do that in the public eye essentially. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world, because it was great fun, and it was a great ride, and we had a big fan base from the word go.
Because you could never perhaps recreate that sort of energy and that buzz, you know, second time round.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did that whole MySpace era. We were putting demos up, and people were kind of getting addicted to the demos. And then when we did the final record, they're like, "Oh, I like the demo more." And it probably wasn't better. It's just what they'd heard first and what they were used to. So we very quickly learned to not put up demos and make sure we're completely happy. And I think that's one of the things with a band. When you write a song, if you're not absolutely 110% happy with it, you're going to be playing that record for the rest of your career, or if not your life, if you're someone like the Rolling Stones or whatever. So you've got to make sure that you're happy with it, and you want it to represent your band. And right now, that's why we're taking our time and getting things right at the moment.
How do you see the music industry, its development in the past 5 years or whatever, and because of the continual advances of digital technology, is it now easier for a band like Hadouken, who are doing both the rock and the dance thing? I don't think it's. I think 5 years ago when we started, it was a hell of a lot easier for a band to start, and I think that was mainly down to MySpace. And I think that the thing was that kind of whole social network and internet thing was liberating, and it gave you a big platform and people were interested. But I think the new thing now, Twitter and Facebook, that's geared towards personalities or companies, and it's not geared towards music, and you're not breaking acts in the same way that you were, where it's based on the music. I think it's more down to personality now, and I think it suits the kind of like the rappers, like the American rappers out there. It really suits them because they're kind of personalities as well as their music. I'm not saying the music's not strong. I think a lot of it is, but I think that's a reason why you're not seeing bands as much these days. And I think the music industry or music world needs something else to come along, another social network to kind of come along and change that again, because at the moment it does seem difficult. Who'd have thought that MySpace would turn into what it is now? Yeah,
I know, it's amazing. I've heard they're relaunching it soon as well. I'm really hoping that they just go completely back to what it was in the exact same code and like all of this sort of old school version of it. It'd be a bit nostalgic, but I think the format of it works so well, and it's a shame that it changed so much.
I mean, there were so many bands that were discovered through MySpace, and I would troll through MySpace discovering music and finding out who liked who, and you know whose fans were fans of whatever, and it was a great platform.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that again, Facebook is just so difficult because it's about getting people to like it, and then we're finding now when we're putting up a post, it will only reach a certain amount of your fans. Facebook decides essentially, and then it wants you to pay. But it is a great tool in another sense because you can get really into people's lives in Facebook, and I do love it, and I'm addicted to Facebook and all of that. I mean, I'm addicted to everything on the internet pretty much, the cats, YouTube, and all of that. But I think it's very difficult for bands now, and I don't feel envious of anyone starting up now. But then I think in the 90s it was much easier in the sense that they plough £500,000 behind every band that they signed. So it's all different strokes for different folks, really.
The new single "Bad Signal," I suppose it relates to it's got a lot of social networking talk in it, hasn't it?
that's very much the kind of like, it's the world that we come from, and I think that I wanted to kind of engage with people and talk about like what like modern love and modern romance. You know, what's it like that to be like a teenager or a young person today? And really a lot of it's down to being so connected with people on texts and tweets and status updates and things like that, but actually feeling quite detached from the world, where you could be so connected but so detached at the same time. And I'm trying to kind of press on that. And then that thing of like, everyone, I think a lot of people have been there, I've certainly been there, it's like texting your ex-girlfriend at 3 in the morning when you're drunk on a street corner and like, oh, I love you and all this and that, and regretting it basically. And that's what Bad Signals is about. It's like being cut off from the person you think you love, or maybe you thought loves you back, and that's all you've got. And that's the kind of hanging on lyric, that's where that comes into it.
Excuse my ignorance, but is it a Supreme sample or is it resung?
Yeah, it is. Well, it was definitely, we used the Diana Ross version of the song, or the Supremes, and then we ended up getting it resung because it just wasn't sticking through the mix. But that was a lot to do with royalties and publishing and stuff like that, and also just making it sound a little bit more crisper than it was, because it's competing with a dubstep beat. So
yeah, and it's such a familiar hook as well, and some people might accuse you of sellouts because of that, because it's so poppy. It's great, yeah. But it's very poppy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in the notion of selling out. It's like, the only thing I want to sell out is every gig I played, you know what I mean? So like, what am I supposed to do here? But really, I mean, we don't sample, we don't just throw samples, you know, at the wall and hope they stick. We really think about what we've done, and we've only done it once before on Mic Check, and that worked really well, and we wanted to do it again for a record. So this one felt right, and I think we took something that was, I wouldn't say it's a happy tune, but I hope we reappropriated it and gave it like a little bit more of an ominous tone, and hopefully it takes that quite nice sweet sample and brings it into something quite dark and dirty, really.
I think it's amazing. Congratulations. Can't
much.
Wait to hear the album. This is Hadouken, is Bad Signal on In Demand Uncut. Bad Signal on In Demand Uncut. James, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having us and coming down as well, making the trip down.
I can't wait to see your sounds blasting out in this club. Yeah, I've not actually been to the club bit yet.
It's loud.
Give me a bit of feel of the atmosphere. What's it like?
Well, inside we've got a big laser show. We've hiding some video walls. We've got extra lights, and they've got the huge sound system in there, which is like really loud and banging. And then combine that with a bit of mosh pit and a bit of crowd surf, and I think we should have a good gig tonight.
In Demand Uncut.